With Spider-Man Homecoming just around the corner, we can't help but address one of our favorite things about this movie so far, the amazing team-up. Tony Stark, aka Iron Man, is teaming up with our favorite neighborhood Spider-Man. We can't help but think of all the cool future team-ups that might occur. Wouldn't it be cool if Iron Man and Spider-Man continued to team up? We've got good news. If you want to find out more about Iron Man and Spider-Man team-ups, watch our video. Before we get started, make sure to click that subscribe button to join the CBR notification squad.
You ever been to Germany?
No.
Oh, you'll love it.
I can't go to Germany.
Why?
I got homework.
I'm gonna pretend you didn't say it.
Marvel Team Up number 72. You'll be happy to hear that 5 years after their first spotlight, Spider-Man and Iron Man once again joined forces in the pages of Marvel Team Up. The 1978 issue number 72, written by Bill Mantlo and drawn by Jim Mooney, paired the two heroes off against the Wraith and Iron Man rogue Whiplash. The story picked up on some plot threads Mantlo had laid out a number of issues prior. The story involves some Spider-Man supporting characters, Jean DeWolf and her brother, the villainous Wraith. Sounds like a pretty action-packed story, doesn't it? Wraith and Whiplash got hired by the Magia crime family to take out the two Avengers. Sounds like a solid plan, but instead of taking anyone out, they spend the whole issue arguing over who's going to run point on the mission. Sibling rivalry. It's the best, isn't it? The Whiplash temporarily gets the upper hand on Spidey. He and Iron Man eventually prevail. The victory comes, in part, thanks to Wraith flipping to the side of good and helping his sister. Spider-Man and Iron Man are ultimately able to defeat Whiplash. I guess Mom was right when she said stop arguing with your siblings, right?
What do we do, Cap?
We fight.
This is gonna end well.
Avengers number 1. Following the events of Civil War, Secret Invasion, and Siege, Marvel and Brian Michael Bendis attempted to pick up where they left off in 2005. This was a time before superheroes fighting each other became standard operating procedure of comic book storytelling. In order to pick back up, Michael built a team around Iron Man and Spider-Man, the dynamic duo of the moment. He also included Spider-Woman, Thor, Hawkeye, and many others. With some truly amazing artwork by John Romita Jr., the beginning of the heroic age saw the Avengers world begin to take shape as separate teams like the New Avengers and Young Avengers came into their own. It also had plenty of twists as the children of the Avengers, aka the next Avengers, from the future were introduced. There's also appearances made by Maestro and Immortus, and of course the Bucky Barnes version of Captain America is not to be left out of all the action and the fun. All in all, the alternate realities and time travel woven throughout the series foreshadowed Jonathan Hickman's eventual work of destroying the Marvel Universe and setting up Secret Wars.
A great many people see you as heroes. There are some who would prefer the word vigilantes.
And what word would you use, Mr. Secretary?
How about dangerous?
Secret Wars. Speaking of setting up the Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars marks not only the biggest team-ups for Spidey and Iron Man, but one of the biggest team-ups in the Marvel Comics universe. Running for 12 issues from 1984 to 85, the story sees a cosmic entity called the Beyonder transport a number of Earth's superheroes and villains to this battle world in an attempt to watch them fight. That's quite a bit of epicness, wouldn't you agree? Even more significant, it actually contains the origin of Spidey's symbiote suit. You remember, right? The super cool black Spidey suit? You might remember it from the Sam Raimi Spider-Man film. While the full story isn't revealed here, we do see him discover the symbiote and bond with it, finding that it comes with a number of its own powers. The series also introduced a number of concepts that would come into play for 2015 Secret Wars, including the Beyonder, here a single entity, and a collaboration between Dr. Doom and Owen Reese, aka the Molecule Man. All in all, it's an essential entry into Marvel canon, and we think it's one of the finest storylines the House of Ideas ever produced.
I saw you on the news today. That goblin, he looks so dangerous.
You know I have to do this. It's kind of my responsibility.
Ultimate Cataclysm, Miles and Iron Man. A few decades after Spidey came to blows with an alternate Iron Man, 2013 saw Spider-Man join forces with Tony Stark. Beginning in 2000, Marvel launched their Ultimate line in an effort to streamline continuity and introduce new readers to their comics. What followed was the creation of an alternate universe adjacent to Marvel's main Earth 616 reality. Eventually, a new Spider-Man was born following the death of Peter Parker. Empowered by a separate radioactive spider from Oscorp, Miles Morales decided discovered he had a number of the original Spidey's powers, along with invisibility and a venomous shock ability. Following the events of Age of Ultron comic storyline, the Galactus of Earth 616 made his way into the universe of the Ultimates and merged with his counterpart. Then he began the process of ripping apart the multiverse. The event saw a number of heroes from both worlds crossing over to solve the threat on both ends. Miles is tasked with getting info from Earth 616 and eventually is one of the few remaining heroes left. He actually holds Captain America in his arms as the hero passes. Thanks to Iron Man and Miles teaming up, the threat is eventually stopped, but the seeds are sowed for the end of the Ultimate Universe in 2015's Secret Wars.
What if there's somewhere we need to go and they don't let us? We may not be perfect, but the safest hands are still our own.
If we don't do this now, it's going to be done to us later.
Avengers number 314 through 318. During a run of the Avengers in 1990, Spider-Man once again joined forces with Marvel's greatest heroes to stop a massive threat. Halfway through, he's invited to join the team, but the offer is rescinded by Captain America a few issues later. There's a lot of editorial behind-the-scenes confusion that kept Spider-Man out of the Avengers for years, but it's far too much to get into here. What is notable is that the adventure brought us another team-up between Iron Man and Spidey. This is an all-star issue featuring Peggy Carter, Vision, the Wasp, Wonder Man, Thor, and even Man-Wolf. A batch of heroes including Spidey and Iron Man come together to take on the threat of Nebula and a villain so nefarious he can only be called Gunther. Written alternately by John Byrne and Fabian Nicieza, the arc hardly lives up to the skills of the two legendary comic writers. Still, its cast of characters and spacefaring action proves to be a lot of fun. In a way, it even gives us a rough idea of what it would be like if Spidey went into space with the other Avengers to fight Thanos' daughter Nebula. It's not exactly Infinity War, but we'll take what we can get.
Are you Tony Stank?
Yes, this is Tony Stank. You're in the right place. Thank you for that.
Marvel Team Up number 48 through 51. 2 years before Spider-Man, Iron Man, and Captain DeWolf teamed up against the Wraith and Whiplash, the trio first learned of Brian DeWolf's alter ego when both siblings were introduced in 1976's Marvel Team Up number 48. The arc, which ran for 4 issues, is significant not only for the Spidey and Iron Man team-up, but because it also marked the debut of Captain DeWolf. Quite an important moment if we do say so ourselves. After the two heroes almost get into an altercation at a graveyard over a recent bombing of Stark facility, DeWolf intercedes and let them know the real score. Later in the story, they try to prove Brian's innocence during a trial, that he's being mind-controlled himself by the DeWolf's evil patriarch. So much family drama. It's a whole lot of nuttiness for sure, but in the end, it's a fun ride. Invincible Iron Man, Amazing Spider-Man. Peter Parker and Tony Stark are both geeky loudmouths with more than a bit of an ego, so naturally they won't always get along. It happens to even the best of friends. While Tony is generally the one pegged for being full of himself, Peter's sense of self-worth gets inflated plenty too. In between all those bouts of self-recrimination, of course. Thanks to Secret Wars rebooting the Marvel Universe in 2015, those traits haven't changed much. Starting with last year's new Invincible Iron Man run, we see a number of Peter Parker supporting characters make their way into the Iron Man title. Mary Jane Watson begins working with Tony. Then Spidey is called in to help Iron Man in Tokyo after Rhodey gets kidnapped. This renewed sense of working together doesn't last forever though, as this year's Amazing Spider-Man number 13 once again pits the two against each other. But is it mind control? Shape-shifting Skrulls? Nope, they just get in a fight over who's the better company. Stark has had a long run with his own enterprise, but recent years have seen Peter finally use his brains to make money. After Iron Man makes a crack about Peter's company, Spidey hits him in the face, kicking off a full-on brawl between the two heroes. Turns out super team-ups aren't always smooth sailing.
Underoos!
Nice job, kid.
Thanks.
Marvel Team Up number 9 through 11. Beginning in the early 70s, Marvel Comics initiated their appropriately named Marvel Team Up book. The comic allowed the publisher to pair together various heroes outside of their solo adventures and work with the Avengers. For 1973's The Tomorrow War, Marvel finally brought together two of their biggest heroes, Spider-Man and Iron Man. Starting with issue 9, the 3-part story saw Peter and Tony join forces to save the rest of the Avengers from Kang the Conqueror. As they begin their quest, they encounter Zarko the Tomorrow Man. Claiming they have a mutual enemy in Kang, Spidey and Iron Man help clear a path through Kang's forces. They realize Zarko's plan involves not only fighting Kang, but detonating a number of time bombs all over the US. Black Bolt is able to stop Kang and the whole team captures Zarko. Of course, the Kang they were fighting turns out to have just been a robot.
I admire anyone who dresses up as their favorite animal. Better still, you can fly. So I gotta ask, you heard the one about great power coming with great responsibility?
New Avengers, Amazing Spider-Man. The lineup and popularity of the Avengers has changed a number of times over its 5 decades of existence. In 2005, it wasn't quite the juggernaut it is today, or was in its heyday, but Marvel had a plan, and what a plan it was. Enlisting Brian Michael Bendis to form a new team, the publisher made vows to add big names like Wolverine and Spider-Man to the roster. The story revolves around a power outage instigated by Electro that leads to a number of supervillains from the raft making their escape. Sounds like a job for some of our favorite heroes. Captain America eventually rounds up all the heroes who helped stop the threat by forming a new Avengers team around them. Meanwhile, the Amazing Spider-Man arc of the time had recently left Peter Parker and his family without a home. Spidey and Iron Man spend the next couple years bonding over science and crime fighting, and Tony even provides the Parkers with a place to live. All this leads to the creation of one of Spidey's most famous suits, the Iron Spider armor designed by Stark. Sadly, the end of the friendship and the costume was just around the corner.
I had to forge a new suit of armor with a metal that doesn't exist in this dimension, that you've never even seen before.
And where is that armor now?
It's, the Dwarf King kept it. It was part of the deal I made with him for helping me.
Marvel Team Up number 110. By now, it should be no surprise that a majority of the collaborations between Spider-Man and Iron Man take place within the pages of Marvel Team Up. Their final one on our list comes from issue 110 in 1981. Mostly written and drawn by veteran comic book creator Herb Trimpe, the issue finds Iron Man and Spider-Man on the trail of the one-shot villain named Magma. Given his name, it should come as no surprise that the baddie can naturally be found deep within the Earth's crust. As you can probably imagine, it's very hot, but how can two above-ground heroes like Spidey and Tony possibly confront him in his own domain? With the help of a giant drill tank, of course. Thanks to Tony's ingenuity, the two heroes are able to burrow down underground and come face-to-face with Magma, so they can get his backstory. As it turns out, his wife was killed in a car accident when Magma swerved off a cliff to avoid some environmental protesters. Heavy-handed to the max, Magma wants to repay the favor by destroying all of New York City with a massive volcano. We don't think this is what they mean by global warming destroying Earth.
Multiple contusions detected.
Yeah, I detected that too.
There are a few of Iron Man and Spider-Man team-ups that have happened in the year so far. Which one was your favorite? Are you excited about upcoming Spider-Man Homecoming film? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're here, don't forget to check out our playlist for more awesome videos. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and share it. Thanks for watching.